All right, I got some breaking news for you here this morning, just in time for Ivy to sit down. Good morning, Ivy. Nice to see you today, as always.
Good morning, Steve.
Wow, this is a big deal. From Donald J. Trump on Truth Social, I have this. Our deal with China is done, subject to final approval with President Xi and me. Full magnets and any necessary rare earths will be supplied up front by China. Likewise, we will provide to China what was agreed to, including Chinese students using our colleges and universities, which has always been good with me. We're getting a total of 55% tariffs. China is getting 10%. Relationship is excellent. Thank you for your attention to this matter. I throw a flag on it just from reading it in real time right there. We've just been talking about the Chinese students here in Michigan trying to bring in substances that could poison our food supply, destroy our crops. So, Mr. President, I have to say, how do we prevent that from happening? Ivy, there you go, breaking news.
Yeah, I think there should be a big asterisk that says if we determine that you have like espionage going on, or if you have, if your Chinese citizens are bringing in things that can harm American people or our harvest or anything in that regard, you're going to have a big price to pay. And I'm sure that those things have been and are discussed. And I don't, of course, President Xi is going to put on a smiling face and absolutely whatever you need. That's how diplomacy works. But we know that the Chinese Communist Party has a long-term game.
Yes,
they are very good at strategy and very good at cornering the market when it comes to things like pharmaceuticals and rare earth minerals, the production of those things. And now you wonder, based on this fungus that had arrived in the country, if they were trying to create some sort of famine that then would cause us to be reliant on other countries or them or whatever. So I wonder, Steve.
Legitimate concern, all of it. Everything you just said is exactly right. Go ahead.
When I think about this issue, I just wonder how we got here. Because
I was just reading this article from Michigan News Source, as you know, our news company, MichiganNewsSource.com. The integration of the CCP into the University of Michigan, for example, goes back at least 2 decades, and that's probably being very conservative. It goes back farther than that. It probably goes to 1972 when China was brought into the United Nations and basically brought into polite society. And from there, they have created a long-term model, as you said, to infiltrate not just America, but every country on the planet.
Sure. You know, I was in college, actually, when a lot of the offshoring of companies leaving America was going on.
Sure.
And I recall having the conversation, you know, how this is going to create a great global society. And never did we ask the question, well, what does that mean for America?
Right.
It helps other countries become wealthy, but what we have found is that now, and we can take pharmaceuticals, for example, this is a national security crisis because we do not have the capability of creating antibiotics. We do not have the ability to create
not in this
penicillin.
Country, that's right.
And even if you look at COVID.
It brings an image to mind.
Okay.
Because the mouse that's in the trap never asked about the free cheese. Just went for the free cheese. Right. And you wonder if you're being led into a complete trap.
Right.
With China every single day.
Well, everything that they do is very strategic, very thought out. There is an end game in mind. We need to remember that. I think that the American people don't really think of China as a threat, like in the Chinese Communist Party as a threat, as big as it is. And there certainly is this silent war going on that when you hear these little stories popping up, just like this issue with University of Michigan student and this fungus that could really destroy crops, it makes you wonder, okay, what is the long game? But going back to the pharmaceutical issue, during COVID, China actually threatened the United States and said, hey, we're going to cut off your supply.
They did.
If you're not going to do X, Y, or Z.
They did.
And so we need to actually take a look at that in America. We have to, I think that
we need to get serious.
Right. Well, I think there's always a need for like cheapest pharmaceuticals I can possibly get. But what does that mean for the quality?
You mentioned that just a moment ago. And back about 2003, 4, 5, 6, in that time frame, 20 years ago, I was going to trade shows in the hunting and fishing industry, and I was seeing all these arrows and straps and all sorts of things, and boots and all these. Oh, look, we're making it in China. We're making it better. It's half the cost. We can deliver. I heard all these manufacturers talking about how great China was. They're taking all their work to China, some to Mexico, but mostly to China.
Right.
And look at the price we've paid.
Look at the price that we have paid, not only in the lack of quality of goods, and I think that we all have gotten so used to things. Oh, the cheapest possible way to make something, and therefore the cheapest materials and the cheapest labor and the cheap. You know, it's very frustrating because if you even look at this on a furniture level, you know, if you're going to go buy furniture, it's either super cheap and poorly made or extremely expensive.
Exactly.
You know, it's like there's nothing in the middle.
Yeah.
And I think that does have some degree to, hey, we need to bring manufacturing back to this country.
Which includes pharmaceuticals.
Which includes pharmaceuticals.
Which includes
it is
protecting our food supply.
And be very, I want the people listening and watching to understand that China does this on purpose. So when we're talking about, you know, all of the elements that make up pharmaceuticals, all the elements that make up, you know, antibiotics, what they do is they corner the market. They create all of these materials.
That's
then
correct.
they flood the market. They drop the price, destroy the entire industry. In that happened in the United States. It happened in Europe.
Yep.
And then what they do is then they corner the market. And then they raise the price, and they have 100% control.
They have a monopoly.
The monopoly on all
right.
of these elements that need to go into pharmaceuticals.
You have been warned. I have to leave it there, Ivy. But you're exactly right on everything you've said.
Well, it makes
China
you wonder,
RX.
what are you taking if you're having to take any type of blood pressure medication, antibiotics, anything like that? You're getting these drugs from China, and what's in them? It makes you wonder.
Makes you wonder. Ivy, always great to have you here. On a very serious note today, love you.
Love you. Thank you.
All right, we'll take a break and be back. It is the Steve Gruber Show.